The morning began like every other on Valaxia Prime. Twin suns slowly climbed above the jagged purple mountains, bathing the planet in golden light. Sleek transport ships glided effortlessly through the sky, like silver fish swimming across a calm ocean. Towering cities of crystal and steel awakened to another ordinary day, their streets alive with millions of citizens beginning their daily routines. For 12,000 years, the galactic sovereignty had stood unchallenged. Its banner flew over 400 star systems. Its fleets ruled the stars. Its enemies had long since learned that resistance was futile. Peace had become so absolute that it was mistaken for permanence. High above the planet, aboard the massive orbital command station, Aegis Crown, Grand Admiral Keth Voron sat motionless in his command chair. Age had finally begun to claim him. Gray scales covered his long, weathered face, and his tired eyes carried the memories of wars fought centuries ago. He had once been one of the greatest commanders in the sovereignty's history. Now, his days were filled with paperwork. There had been no real war for generations. No rival empire dared challenge the sovereignty's power. As the morning briefing continued, Keth listened with barely concealed boredom. Minor border disputes with the Keth hegemony. He gave a small nod. Trade convoys requesting tax reductions. Another routine complaint. A mining colony rebellion has been successfully suppressed. Predictable. Nothing worth his attention. The Admiral leaned back in his chair with a quiet sigh. That will be all. His officers saluted in perfect unison before leaving the command chamber. The heavy doors slid shut behind them, leaving Keth alone with the silence that had become his constant companion. He never imagined it would be the last peaceful morning of his career. 3 levels below the command deck, in a cramped sensor control room illuminated by rows of glowing holographic displays, junior sensor technician Yelix struggled to stay awake. She had graduated from the Imperial Military Academy only 6 months earlier. Like every young officer, she had dreamed of legendary battles, heroic victories, and earning her place in the history books. Instead, she spent her shifts watching empty space. Hour after hour, day after day, nothing ever happened. She had no idea that within the next few minutes, everything was about to change. Instead, she spent her days watching dots move across screens. The dots were ships and satellites and space stations, thousands of them, all of them doing exactly what they were supposed to do. Her job was to watch for anything unusual, but nothing unusual ever happened this deep in Imperial space. The throne world was protected by 47 different sensor networks. 12 patrol fleets circled the system at all times. The most advanced detection technology in the known galaxy watched every corner of space for light years in all directions. Nothing could get close without being seen. Yelix stretched her forearms and yawned. Her shift would end in 2 hours. She would go home, eat dinner, sleep, and come back tomorrow to watch more dots. This was her life now. She looked at her main screen and frowned. There was a small cluster of dots near the edge of the 3rd defensive zone. The computer had labeled it debris field, probably pieces of an old satellite or a dead comet. The system was full of such things, but something about it bothered her. She had been watching the screens for 6 months now. She had learned to notice small things, and this debris field had been moving in a very straight line for a very long time. Debris did not move in straight lines. Debris tumbled and drifted and scattered. This was too neat, too organized. "Computer," she said, "run a deep scan on contact 7742. Deep scan requires level 3 authorization." The computer replied. Yelix hesitated. She was only level 2. She would need to call her supervisor. Her supervisor would ask why she wanted to waste resources on a debris field. Her supervisor would tell her she was being foolish. But the straight line bothered her. She entered her supervisor's code. He had given it to her for emergencies. He had also told her never to use it unless the system was actually under attack. He would be angry. The deep scan activated. Powerful sensors focused on the distant contact. Data began flowing across her screen. Yelix felt her blood turn cold. The debris field was not debris. It was a ship, a single ship running silent with minimal power signature. It had been drifting closer for 3 standard cycles. It was already inside the 3rd defensive perimeter. Her hands shook as she searched the database for a match. The ship's shape was strange, blocky and angular. Without the smooth curves of Imperial design, it matched nothing in the Sovereignty fleet, nothing from the hegemony, nothing from any of the known species. Then the computer found a match in the newly integrated database. The database they had created just 18 years ago when they first made contact with a small, strange species from a distant arm of the galaxy. Species human origin, Terra classification, developing curiosity, ship type, battleship class combat vessel. Yelix stared at the words. Her mind refused to accept them. Humans were primitives. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel a few decades ago. They were weak and soft and short-lived. The Empire had not even bothered to conquer them. They were not worth the effort. And yet, here was a human battleship, inside the 3rd perimeter, close enough to strike at the throne world itself. She checked the data 3 times. Then she checked it again. The readings were clear. The ship was real. How? She whispered to herself. She pulled up the tracking history. The computer had been watching this contact for months. Every sensorette had detected it. Every patrol fleet had recorded its presence. The system had flagged it 2,847 times. Every single flag had been dismissed. The automated defense systems had looked at the contact. They had seen a small energy signature. They had seen a trajectory that matched natural drift patterns. They had seen exactly what they expected to see. Debris, and so they had ignored it. No one had ever looked closer. No one had ever asked questions. No one had ever imagined that a human ship could be here. So no one had looked for one. Yelix felt sick. The most advanced detection grid in the galaxy had failed. Not because it was broken, not because the enemy was invisible, but because everyone had assumed it was impossible. She opened a communication channel to her supervisor. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Sir, we have a situation. I need you to come to Sensor Station 12 immediately. This better be important," her supervisor growled. "I am in the middle of my meal. I am in the middle of my meal, sir. There is a human battleship inside the 3rd perimeter. It is approaching the throne world." Silence. A long, terrible silence. "That is not possible," her supervisor finally said. "I have confirmed it 4 times, sir. It is real." More silence. Then the sound of footsteps running through corridors. Her supervisor burst into the room moments later. He was a large male, with dark red scales and a permanent frown. He pushed Yelix aside and stared at her screen. His frown deepened. His hands began to shake. "How long has it been there?" he demanded. 3 cycles, sir. Perhaps longer. 3 cycles." He said the words like they were poison. "A human warship has been inside our defenses for 3 cycles, and no one noticed. The automated systems kept flagging it as debris." "Sir, no one checked manually." Her supervisor closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there was fear in them. Real fear. Yelix had never seen an Imperial officer look afraid before. "Sound the proximity alarm," he said. "All of them, sir. That will cause panic. The Emperor himself will." "Sound them all," he roared. "Every alarm we have. Alert every ship, every station, every soldier on that planet below. Do it now." Yelix obeyed. Her fingers moved across the controls. Across the system, lights began to flash red. Sirens began to wail. Millions of citizens looked up at the sky and wondered what was happening. In his command chair, Grand Admiral Keth Varane shot upright as emergency signals flooded his screens. His peaceful morning was over. His peaceful career was over. Everything he thought he knew about the safety of the Empire was over. He looked at the tactical display and saw the impossible. A single ship sitting quietly in space, waiting to be noticed. "Who?" he said slowly, his voice trembling with rage and fear. "Let a human battleship get this close." No one had an answer. The ship just drifted there, silent and patient, as if it had all the time in the universe. And somewhere on that ship, the humans were waiting. The Imperial Palace had not seen chaos like this in 300 years. Servants ran through golden hallways. Officers shouted into communicators. Guards formed defensive lines around doors that had never needed guarding before. Emperor Thvaxis sat on his throne and watched his advisors argue. He was ancient, even by imperial standards. His scales had turned white with age. His eyes were cloudy, but his mind was still sharp. And right now his mind was very, very angry. "Explain to me," he said in a voice that silenced the room, "how this happened." 3 intelligence chiefs stood before him. They were the leaders of the Empire's spy networks, the masters of secrets and shadows. Right now, they looked like children caught stealing sweets. "Your Majesty," the first one began, "our systems detected the vessel multiple times. The fault lies with the automated response protocols. The protocols were designed by your department. The second one interrupted. If anyone is to blame, my department followed standard procedures. The third one shouted. The real question is why the patrol fleets never investigated. Enough." The Emperor raised one withered hand. The room fell silent again. "I do not want excuses. I want to know how a primitive species sent a warship to my doorstep without anyone noticing." No one had an answer. High above the planet, the Imperial Navy was mobilizing. 600 warships broke from their docks and formed into battle formations. Destroyers and cruisers and carriers spread across the sky like a net of steel. Defense platforms powered up weapons that had not been fired in decades. The home fleet, pride of the Empire, awakened for the first time in 3 centuries. Grand Admiral Keth Varain stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Sovereignty. It was the largest warship ever built by his people, 10 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, crewed by 50,000 soldiers. Around it, the rest of the fleet took position, 600 warships against 1. The outcome should have been obvious, but the admiral felt no confidence. Something about this situation was wrong. The human ship had not tried to run. It had not charged its weapons. It had not sent any threats or demands. It just sat there, drifting slowly, as if it did not care about the massive fleet surrounding it. "Report," he ordered. "The human vessel remains stationary, sir," his tactical officer reported. "No weapon signatures detected. No shield activity. Minimal power output. They are playing dead," one of his captains suggested. "Perhaps they hope we will think they are debris again. We are past that point," the admiral said grimly. "What do we know about this ship?" An intelligence officer stepped forward. She was young and nervous, holding a data tablet with shaking hands. The admiral recognized her. She was the one who had found the ship. Yelix, her name was. "Sir, the vessel matches the profile of a Terran Union battleship," she said specifically. "It appears to be the UTS Perseverance appears to be." Yelix swallowed. "Sir, the Perseverance was reported destroyed 8 months ago. There was a battle with Caith Hegemony forces near the neutral zone. Our observers confirmed the kill. Verified debris. The ship was listed as lost with all hands." The admiral stared at her. "And yet it is here." "Yes, sir. I cannot explain it." Silence fell over the bridge. The officers looked at each other with worried eyes. Ships did not come back from the dead. Ships did not appear where they could not possibly be. And yet this one had. "Perhaps the humans faked their own destruction," someone suggested. "Perhaps our intelligence was wrong." Another officer said, "Perhaps," the admiral said slowly, "we do not understand the humans as well as we thought." He turned back to the main screen. The human ship floated there, small and alone and impossibly calm. It was battered and scarred. Burn marks covered its hull. One of its engine sections was clearly damaged. This ship had been through a terrible fight, and somehow it had survived. Somehow it had limped across thousands of light years of space. Somehow it had passed through the most heavily defended region in the galaxy, all without anyone noticing. "Open a communication channel," the admiral ordered. "Let us hear what they have to say." The communication officer worked his controls. Static filled the speakers. Then slowly a signal came through. "Channel open, sir." The admiral straightened his uniform. He had spoken with many species over his long career. He had negotiated with enemies and allies alike, but he had never spoken with a human before. Few in the Empire had. They were too new, too small, too far away to matter until now. "Human vessel," he said, his voice formal and cold. This is Grand Admiral Keth Voron of the Galactic Sovereignty. You have entered Imperial space without authorization. You have penetrated our defensive perimeter. You are surrounded by 600 warships. Explain your presence immediately, or you will be destroyed." He waited. The seconds stretched like hours. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was soft and calm, speaking perfect with only a slight accent. A female voice, tired but steady. "Admiral Keth Voron, this is Captain R. Vance of the Terran Union ship Perseverance. We apologize for any concern our arrival has caused. We mean no harm to the Sovereignty or its people." The Admiral frowned. This was not the response he expected. No threats, no demands, no posturing, just a simple apology. "You have committed an act of war," he said, "sneaking a warship into our home system. With respect, Admiral, we did not sneak anywhere." The human captain sounded almost amused. "We have been broadcasting standard identification signals since we entered your space 3 months ago. We followed all proper traffic lanes. We responded to every automated query from your system." The Admiral turned to his officers. They checked their records. Their faces went pale. "She is telling the truth, sir," one of them said quietly. "The ship sent proper identification 23 times. The system logged each response and then dismissed them." "Yes, sir. The automated defense network determined that a human ship in this location was impossible. Therefore, it concluded that the identification signals must be errors." The Admiral closed his eyes. The greatest military force in the galaxy brought low by a computer that could not believe what it was seeing. "Captain Vance," he said, opening his eyes again. "Why are you here?" "We are trying to get home, Admiral. Our FTL drive was damaged in the battle with the hegemony. We have been limping through space for 8 months, taking whatever route our engines could handle. Your system happened to be on our path. You expect me to believe that you accidentally stumbled into the most protected system in the galaxy." There was a pause. When the captain spoke again, her voice carried a hint of something. Sadness, perhaps, or exhaustion. "Admiral, we have lost half our crew. Our ship is held together with spare parts and hope. We are not here to fight. We are not here to spy. We are just trying to survive long enough to see our families again." The Admiral did not respond immediately. He looked at the ship on his screen. He saw the scars and the damage and the desperation of a vessel that had traveled too far and suffered too much. And he saw something else. He saw what this meant for the Empire. If one damaged ship could reach the throne world, what could a healthy one do? What could a fleet do? The humans had been classified as a developing curiosity, a minor species, barely worth attention. That classification would need to change. "Hold your position," he said finally. "Do not attempt to move or power your weapons. We will decide what to do with you." "Understood, Admiral. We are not going anywhere." The channel closed. The Admiral stood in silence, surrounded by his officers, looking at the impossible ship that had changed everything. A single word blinked on the main screen. The last thing the human ship had transmitted before the channel closed. "Greetings." Such a simple word. Such a terrifying word. The Empire would never be the same. Grand Admiral Keveron had commanded fleets for over 60 years. He had faced pirates and rebels and foreign armies. He had stared death in the face many times and never blinked. But standing on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the human vessel on his screen, he felt something he had not felt in decades. Uncertainty. "Open the channel again," he ordered. Full visual this time. The screen flickered. Static danced across the display. Then an image appeared, and the Admiral got his first look at a human. Captain Vance was smaller than he expected. Humans were a short species, he knew, but seeing one on screen made it real. She had pale skin and dark hair streaked with gray lines marked her face, and shadows hung under her eyes. She looked tired, deeply, completely tired, but her eyes were steady. They met his gaze without fear or hesitation. This was a woman who had seen hard things and survived them. "Admiral," she said, nodding her head slightly. "Thank you for speaking with us again, Captain." He did not return the nod. "You claim you have been traveling through our space for 3 months. You claim you were broadcasting identification the entire time. I find this difficult to believe. I understand your doubt, Admiral. Perhaps your people could review their own records. Keith Varon gestured to his officers. They had already been working on this question. Now they stepped forward, their faces troubled. "Sir," one of them said, "we have reviewed all sensor logs from the past 3 months. The human ship first appeared on our long-range scanners 92 days ago. It was flagged as a minor contact, possible debris, and logged for routine observation." Continue. Over the following weeks, the ship passed through 7 different sensor networks. Each network detected it. Each network logged it. Each network sent automatic queries asking for identification. And the officer looked like he wanted to disappear. The ship responded to every query. "Sir, standard identification protocols, proper formatting, correct frequencies." Every response was logged and then dismissed as a calibration error. The bridge fell silent. The Admiral felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "Calibration error," he repeated slowly. "Yes, sir." The system's logic was clear. A human ship could not possibly be in deep Imperial space. Therefore, any signal claiming to be from a human ship must be false. The system marked each response as equipment malfunction and continued normal operations. "How many times did this happen?" 2,847 times, sir." On the screen, Captain Vance waited patiently. There was no anger in her expression, no smugness, just the calm patience of someone who had expected exactly this reaction. "You see, Admiral," she said gently, "we did not sneak past your defenses. We walked through the front door. We knocked. We announced ourselves. Your systems heard us and decided we could not exist." So, they stopped listening. The Admiral wanted to argue. He wanted to deny it, but the evidence was clear. The most advanced sensor network in the galaxy had failed because it trusted its own assumptions more than its own data. "Your ship was destroyed," he said, changing the subject. "Our intelligence confirmed it." "How are you here?" Captain Vance smiled. It was a small, sad smile. "We were badly damaged in the battle with the hegemony. Our main engines were destroyed. Half our systems were offline. The hegemony ships recorded our power failure and left us for dead. They did not stay to confirm the kill, a mistake on their part. Yes, my engineers managed to restart our backup systems. We had just enough power to limp away before anyone returned to check. We have been drifting ever since, using whatever route our damaged drives could handle. And that route led you here to the throne world, the most protected system in the Empire. Not by design, Admiral. We were simply following the safest path through known space. Your system happened to be on that path." She paused. "We did not expect to make it this far. Honestly, we did not expect to make it anywhere, but humans are stubborn. We do not surrender easily." The Admiral studied her face. She was telling the truth. He had interrogated enough prisoners over the years to recognize honesty. This woman was not lying. She was simply surviving. "What do you want?" he asked. "Permission to continue through your space. A chance to repair our engines if possible. And perhaps," she hesitated, "perhaps a chance to show that humans are not your enemies. You appear in our most secure system with a warship, and expect us to believe you are friendly. Admiral, if we wanted to attack you, we would not have come alone. We would not have come damaged. We would not have announced ourselves at every checkpoint." She leaned forward slightly. "We came because we had no other choice, and now that we are here, we would like to make the best of the situation." She reached off-screen and retrieved something. A data crystal, small and glowing, faintly blue. "A gift," she said. "Navigational data from our journey. Everything we observed about hegemony fleet positions, patrol routes, and military installations. We gathered quite a bit of information while limping through their space." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "You want to trade intelligence? I want to show good faith. The Terran Union has no quarrel with the sovereignty. We know we are small and young and weak compared to your empire. We know we could not win a war against you. We have no desire to try. Then what do you desire, friends?" The word was simple but heavy with meaning. "We are alone in this galaxy, Admiral. Every species we have met so far has tried to conquer us, or ignore us, or exploit us. We are looking for someone who might treat us as equals, or at least as something other than prey." The Admiral said nothing. He was thinking around him. His officers waited in tense silence. The humans were primitives. Everyone knew this. They had barely mastered space travel. Their technology was crude. Their ships were ugly. Their lifespan was laughably short. And yet one of their damaged ships had crossed the galaxy. One of their captains had walked through the Empire's greatest defenses. One of their gifts might contain intelligence worth more than a dozen spy networks. Perhaps the Empire had misjudged them. "There is something I must ask," the Admiral said slowly. "You say you came here by accident. You say you followed a safe route, but I need to know how many other human ships are doing the same thing." Captain Vance tilted her head. "I do not understand the question. How many of your ships are currently traveling through Imperial space? How many are drifting through our sensor networks being dismissed as debris or calibration errors?" For the first time, something flickered in the captain's eyes. Not guilt, not deception, something else. Something that looked almost like amusement. "Admiral, I honestly do not know. Our fleet is scattered. Many ships were damaged in the war with the hegemony. Many are limping home through whatever routes they can find. I know of at least 4 others that were planning to cross through sovereignty space where they are now. I cannot say 4 others. At least 4 others, possibly more." The Admiral felt the cold weight in his stomach grow heavier. "You are saying there could be multiple human warships inside our borders right now, and we would have no way of knowing." Captain Vance spread her hands. "Your systems see what they expect to see, Admiral. They expected to see debris. So that is what they saw. It was not a threat. She had not meant it as a threat. But the Admiral heard the truth beneath her words. The Empire's defenses were not as strong as they believed. The humans had found a weakness, not through cunning or technology, but simply by being unexpected. And if the Empire could not find a single damaged ship, how would they ever find a fleet that did not want to be found? "We need to talk," the Admiral said properly, face to face. "Will you come aboard my flagship? If you will guarantee my safety, Admiral, I would be honored. You have my word." The channel closed. The Admiral turned to his officers. Their faces were pale. They had heard everything. They understood what this meant. "Prepare a shuttle," he said, "and someone contact the Emperor. We have much to discuss." The humans were coming aboard, and the galaxy would never look the same again. The Imperial War Council met in a chamber that had witnessed 12,000 years of history. Great battles had been planned here. Treaties had been signed. Emperors had risen and fallen, while these walls stood firm. The chamber had seen everything, but it had never seen anything quite like this. Captain Air Vance sat at one end of the long table. She was the only human in the room, surrounded by aliens who towered over her. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had too many eyes or not enough limbs. All of them were staring at her like she was a puzzle they could not solve. Emperor Tholvaxis sat at the other end, his ancient body supported by a floating throne. His advisors flanked him on both sides. Military commanders, intelligence chiefs, diplomats, and scientists, the most powerful beings in the Empire, all gathered to discuss one small human and one damaged ship. "Let me be clear," General Breathcon growled. He was the commander of the Home Guard, a massive warrior with scars covering his face. "This creature has committed an act of war. She should be executed, and her ship should be destroyed. That is the law. The law assumes hostile intent." Admiral Keth Varain replied calmly. "Captain Vance has shown no hostility. She has offered valuable intelligence. She has cooperated fully with our investigation. She penetrated our defenses. Our defenses failed on their own. She simply walked through the holes we left open." The general snarled but said nothing more. He did not like the Admiral's answer, but he could not argue with the facts. "I am more interested in how this happened," said Minister Yithkai, the head of Imperial Intelligence. She was a thin, sharp-eyed female with silver scales and a calculating gaze. "Captain Vance, you say your ship mimics the energy signature of debris. How is this possible? What technology allows this?" Vance smiled slightly. "No special technology, Minister. It is simply how we build our ships." "Explain." "Human ships are designed for survival, not display. Our hulls are made of materials that absorb energy rather than reflect it. Our engines burn clean, leaving minimal exhaust trails. We run our systems at low power whenever possible, generating less heat and radiation. We are not trying to be invisible. We are trying to be uninteresting. Minister Ithkai leaned forward. You are saying your entire fleet is designed to look like garbage. I would not phrase it that way, but yes, we learned early in our space exploration that the galaxy is dangerous. We could not match the firepower of older species, so we learned to avoid attention instead. If you do not look like a threat, most predators will not bother with you. Predators, the general spat. You compare us to predators. I compare the galaxy to a hunting ground. General, because that is what it is. Every species we have encountered has tried to take advantage of us in some way. We survived by being harder to notice than we were worth attacking. Where silence fell over the chamber. The council members exchanged glances. This was not the answer they had expected. They had assumed the humans possessed some advanced stealth technology, some secret weapon that made their ships invisible. Instead, they had simply designed their ships to be boring. It was almost insulting, and yet it had worked perfectly. The question before us, Emperor Thalvaxis said, his voice dry and slow, is what to do now. The humans have revealed a flaw in our defenses. They have demonstrated that our sensors can be fooled by simple deception. How do we respond? We redesign our sensor networks. One of the scientists suggested we adjust our detection algorithms. We train our operators to question their assumptions. That will take years. The general said, what do we do in the meantime? What if more human ships appear? What if they are not friendly next time? Then we will deal with them as they come. The admiral said, but right now we have an opportunity. The humans are offering friendship. They are offering intelligence. They are offering a chance to learn from our mistakes without paying for them in blood. You trust them. I trust that they are smart enough to know they cannot fight us. I trust that they want allies, not enemies. And I trust that this woman has been honest with us from the moment we opened communications. All eyes turned to Captain Vance. She sat calmly under their gaze, showing no fear or nervousness. She had been tested and examined and questioned for 3 days now. She had answered every question truthfully. She had held nothing back. There is something I have not mentioned yet, she said quietly. I think it is time. The council tensed. The general's hand moved toward his weapon. Peace, General. It is not a threat. It is simply information. She took a breath. There are 4 other human ships currently in sovereignty space. I mentioned this to the Admiral earlier. What I did not mention is that I do not know exactly where they are. You do not know. We lost communication with each other months ago. We were all damaged, all limping home through different routes. I know they plan to cross through your territory, but I do not know their current positions or status. Minister Yithkai's eyes widened. You are saying there are 4 human warships somewhere inside our borders, and even you cannot find them. Correct. They are running silent just like we were. If your sensors could not find us, they probably cannot find the others either. The chamber erupted. Voices shouted over each other. The general demanded immediate action. The minister called for system-wide scans. The scientists argued about detection methods. Only the emperor remained silent, watching the chaos with ancient, tired eyes. Quiet, he said finally. The room fell still. Captain Vance, you have presented us with a problem. 4 ships, possibly hostile, hiding in our space. Why tell us this? Because I want you to understand something, Your Majesty. Vance met his gaze directly without flinching. The humans are not your enemies. Those 4 ships are not here to attack you. They are just trying to get home like I am. But I want you to understand what could have happened if we were enemies. I want you to see the danger, so you will take us seriously. You want us to be afraid of you. I want you to respect us. There is a difference. The emperor was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he began to laugh. It was a dry wheezing sound, but it was genuine. You are clever, Captain. You show us our weakness and then offer to help us fix it. You make us afraid and then promise friendship. Very clever indeed. I prefer to think of it as practical, Your Majesty. Call it what you will. The emperor waved one withered hand. I have heard enough. This council will now vote on the matter. General Vreth Khan, your recommendation. The general glared at Vance with open hatred. Destruction. The ship and its crew. Admiral Kef. Alliance. The humans have proven themselves capable and honest. We would be fools to make enemies of them. Minister Ithkai, the intelligence chief, hesitated. Her calculating eyes moved from Vance to the Emperor and back again. Alliance, she said finally. But with conditions. We must study their technology. We must learn how they evade our sensors. And we must find those other 4 ships before they cause problems. One by one, the council members voted. The final count was close, but the decision was clear. Very well, the Emperor said. Captain Vance, the Galactic Sovereignty offers the Terran Union a conditional alliance. We will repair your ship. We will allow you to continue your journey home, and we will begin formal diplomatic relations with your government. Vance bowed her head. Thank you, Your Majesty. The Terran Union accepts your offer with gratitude. Do not thank me yet, Captain. You have revealed a flaw in our defenses. You have made us look foolish in front of our own people. Many in this room will never forgive you for that. I understand, Your Majesty. Good. Then you also understand that this alliance is built on fear as much as friendship. We are not embracing you because we like you. We are embracing you because we are afraid of what might happen if we do not. Vance nodded slowly. That is a foundation we can work with, Your Majesty. Fear can become respect. Respect can become trust. And trust can become true friendship. We have time. Time. The Emperor laughed again. That dry wheezing sound. Humans live such short lives. How can you speak of time? Because we make every moment count, Your Majesty. It is another thing we have learned to do. The council session ended. The votes were recorded. The decisions were made. And somewhere in the vastness of space, 4 human ships drifted silently through Imperial territory, unseen and unnoticed, waiting for the day they would finally reach home. The galaxy had changed. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. 6 months had passed since the day a human battleship appeared at the heart of the galactic sovereignty. 6 months of chaos and change and difficult conversations. 6 months that had transformed the Empire in ways no one had expected. Commander Yelix stood at her new station on the orbital platform above Valaxia Prime. She was no longer a junior sensor technician watching dots on a screen. She was now the head of Imperial Threat Assessment, commanding a team of 200 specialists. Her job was simple: never let the Empire be surprised again. Below her, the city lights sparkled in the evening darkness. Above her, ships moved through the void in their endless dance of commerce and travel. Everything looked the same as it had 6 months ago, but everything was different. The sensor networks had been completely rebuilt. New algorithms watched for patterns that did not fit. New training programs taught operators to question their assumptions. The phrase calibration error had been officially banned from Imperial vocabulary. If something looked strange, it was investigated always. But the biggest change was not in the technology. It was in the thinking. The Empire had believed itself invincible for thousands of years. It had assumed that older meant stronger, that size meant safety, that tradition meant wisdom. The humans had proven all of these assumptions wrong without firing a single shot. Now the Empire was learning to doubt, learning to question, learning to look at the universe with fresh eyes. It was uncomfortable, it was humbling, and it was absolutely necessary. A message appeared on Yelix's screen. The UTS Perseverance had completed its repairs and was preparing to depart. Captain Vance had requested a final meeting with Grand Admiral Keth Varane before leaving. Yelix smiled. She had grown to respect the human captain over the past months. Vance was quiet and patient and utterly fearless. She had walked into the heart of an alien empire with nothing but honesty and survived. That took a kind of courage Yelix had never seen before. The meeting took place in a small observation lounge on the orbital station. Through the windows, the stars stretched out in endless glory. The Perseverance floated nearby, its hull now smooth and repaired, its engines humming with new power. Grand Admiral Keth Varane arrived first. He looked different than he had 6 months ago. The arrogance was gone from his posture. The certainty had left his eyes. He had been forced to admit that he was wrong about many things, and the experience had changed him. Captain Vance arrived a few minutes later. She too had changed. The exhaustion had faded from her face. She stood straighter, walked easier. The long nightmare of her journey was finally ending. "Admiral," she said, nodding respectfully. "Captain," he returned the nod. "I trust your repairs were satisfactory. More than satisfactory. Your engineers are very skilled. The Perseverance has never run better. Good. You have a long journey ahead of you." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. 6 months ago, they had been strangers from different worlds, facing each other across a gulf of misunderstanding. Now they were something else, not quite friends, but something close. "I want to thank you," the Admiral said quietly. "You could have handled this situation very differently. You could have threatened us. You could have demanded things. You could have used our fear against us. That would not have served anyone, Admiral. We are a small species in a very large galaxy. We cannot afford to make enemies. And yet, you made us afraid. That first day when you told me about the other 4 ships, I have never felt so helpless. Our entire defense network useless. Our mighty fleet blind. Everything we believed about our security. Wrong." Vance turned to face him. "I needed you to understand, Admiral. Not to hurt you or humiliate you, but to show you that we are not the primitives you assumed. We are survivors. We adapt. We endure. That is what humans do. I am beginning to understand that." The Admiral paused. "We found 2 of the other ships. You know, they had passed through our territory weeks ago and were already beyond our borders. We tracked them using the new detection methods your engineers helped us develop, and the other 2 still searching. Your ships are very good at hiding." Vance smiled slightly. "We have had a lot of practice." The Admiral shook his head slowly. "Your ship was never a threat to us. 1 vessel against 600. We could have destroyed you in seconds. Yes, you could have. Then why did your arrival cause such concern? Why did it shake the foundations of our empire?" Vance was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "Because now you know, Admiral. Every shadow could be a human ship. Every piece of debris, every sensor ghost, every contact that your systems dismiss as unimportant. You will never be certain again. You will always wonder, is that really nothing? Or is it something we are not seeing?" The Admiral closed his eyes. "That is a terrible thing to know. Yes, but it is also a gift. Uncertainty keeps you sharp. Doubt keeps you humble. Fear keeps you careful. These are not weaknesses, Admiral. They are strengths that your empire had forgotten, and the humans remembered them. The humans never had the luxury of forgetting. We have always been small and weak and surrounded by dangers. We learned to be uncertain because certainty would have gotten us killed." The Admiral opened his eyes and looked at the human woman. She was so small, so fragile, so temporary. Her entire life was a blink of an eye compared to his. And yet she had taught him things that 12,000 years of imperial wisdom had never mentioned. "What happens now?" he asked. "Between our peoples we build something together. Slowly, carefully, step by step." Vance held out her hand in the human gesture of friendship. "The Terran Union and the Galactic Sovereignty, different in every way, but perhaps strong enough together to face whatever the galaxy throws at us." The Admiral looked at her hand. Such a strange custom, this touching of limbs. But he had learned that humans placed great meaning in such gestures. He reached out and took her hand in his scaled grip. "Together then," he said. An hour later, the Perseverance departed. Its engines flared bright against the darkness of space. Yellix watched it go from her station, tracking its course on her screens. The ship accelerated smoothly, heading toward the edge of the system and the long journey home before it left sensor range. Captain Vance sent one final message. Yellix was the first to receive it. "Commander Yellix, thank you for seeing us when no one else would. I hope we meet again someday. Until then, keep watching the shadows. You never know what you might find." Yellix smiled and saved the message to her personal files. Then she turned back to her screens and ran a deep scan of the entire system. 7 anomalies appeared. 7 contacts that might be ships or might be debris. 7 shadows that demanded investigation. She flagged all of them for immediate review. Her team would check each one personally. No more assumptions. No more calibration errors. No more blind spots. The galaxy was full of surprises. The humans had proven that. And Yellix was determined to never be caught unprepared again. Far away, The Perseverance jumped to faster than light speed and vanished from sovereignty sensors. But the ripples it had created would last for generations. The Empire had learned a new lesson, one that would change everything. The galaxy had spent 12,000 years mastering the art of war. The great powers had built vast fleets and terrible weapons and fortress systems that nothing could penetrate. They had believed they were safe. The humans had mastered something different, something subtle, something terrifying in its simplicity. They had mastered the art of being exactly where they were not supposed to be, of walking through doors that were supposed to be locked, of existing in places where existence was declared impossible. And the greatest empires in the galaxy would never look at a piece of debris the same way again, because it might not be debris at all. It might be humanity waiting patiently in the darkness, ready to change everything again.